Over the past month, I've been covering the most empathetic people on YouTube. We got Milhouse, who hates on a woman who was a child bride.
What the f is wrong with you, fuck crazy ass bitch? I'm sorry, folks. I had to call. The word came out, folks. I'm sorry. If I had a button, I would have buttoned it. I can't. Okay, I fucking hate these people. They're horrific. These people are horrific. This couple is a horrible couple. I don't give a f that she was a fucking a child bride, bro.
He doesn't know if anything she said was false, by the way. He's just crashing out because he hates Ethan.
Oh, look, good pause right here, huh? Look at that. I was a child bride. Again, I mean, it's very sad to be a child bride, but to grow up to be an adult bitch. Sorry about that. Ooh, you went from child bride to adult piece of shit. So you and your story. Let's
Noah Samsen's been spending his time calling out YouTubers for supporting genocide, even though they don't. He's just lying for views. But the short of it is, if you criticize Hassan in any way, you are an evil Zionist genocide supporter. He ends his video by telling his viewers to do something about it. Wink, wink.
People living in the West have the most power over anyone else in the world to stop the genocide. We are living in the belly of the beast. We have direct geographical, physical access to the politicians, the propagandists, the weapons companies, and the supply chains that are facilitating this genocide. Protesting is great. We should keep doing that. But also, you know, I feel like we have to be honest with ourselves. 17 months in, and what is protesting actually accomplished? Nothing. If we want this genocide to stop, it's time to escalate. That's all I'm saying. So anyways, yes.
See, you can lay it out very easily, one sentence at a time. It's quite clear. We in the West have direct physical access to a bunch of people, including the propagandists, after just labeling a bunch of people creators, propagandists. What does protesting achieve? Well, some things, but you know, overall, basically nothing. If we want this to stop, we need to escalate. That's all I'm saying. I'm sorry, if you had a clear vision for what needs to be done to stop the genocide, you would say it, because you want to direct your audience into something fruitful. Unless the thing you want your audience to do is against TOS, criminal, violent, etc. He's calling for people to do something that he is too cowardly to say himself. He's calling for people to do dirty work for him. That's what this is.
He wants them to send more skulls to Ethan Klein.
Just like a death threat to a father, a family.
Since then, 2 low-level staffers at the Israeli embassy were shot in DC, all in the name of Palestine. Well, what was Noah's response in his charity live stream? Well, it's to dismiss it as not being serious and mock people who found it worrying.
Smart move on not covering current events, by the way. You mean specific current events or in general? Because 2 pro-peace Jews dead. Read what they were saying. Pro-peace is crazy.
Even so, would they deserve it?
Yes, it did. Noah has repeatedly made calls to violence and multiple protesting isn't enough. Goodbye. No, I'm scared. Oh, I'm scared. YouTube video scared me. No. That sentiment, though, is 1000% true. That protesting isn't enough.
So you're calling for escalation against propagandists, and you just made several videos calling Ethan and other YouTubers propagandists. We're already at the point of death threats, Noah. What does farther escalation mean? People like Noah are cowards because they don't want to ruin their cushy lives.
It is unambiguously a call for violence, okay? I'm sorry. And he doesn't want to spoil his cute little life. He doesn't want to fuck his income and ruin the little cushy career that he's got a hold of. He doesn't want to do that. He wants other people to fuck up their lives and get thrown in jail or whatever else for him. He wants other people to be Luigi or fucking, what's his face? Aaron Bushnell. Interesting that he said propagandists, because that might actually encompass the people that he's just spent the entire video calling genocide defenders.
Ethan is making the obvious observation that these people are encouraging an escalation of violence inside the United States, and Hassan crazy makes him.
Understand that me and Gila are just as valid targets to them. I don't think so. That's ridiculous. I've known this as people like Hassan and iDubbbz lecture me about hallucinating threats. I knew this the moment I ended Leftovers. Why would I want to be a member of a community that would literally cheer on my death? There is a toxic, violent, nihilistic extremism brewing on the left, and it should scare all of us. No, this is a hallucination. Have some dignity. You are not a victim, just a narcissist.
Since then, a Jewish group marching for hostages to be released had a Molotov thrown at them. Now, Noah did delete this section from his video, but as we just saw, he doubled down on his charity live stream. It's such a bad look that they act like Ethan wasn't sent skulls as a death threat, that the H3 crew sent the skulls to themselves.
You guys opened it. You're the ones that fucking opened that shit. AB, that was you handling it, right?
Yes, it was. I can confirm that Ethan did not send it to himself, and
how do you know?
We were all freaked out by it.
I was scared out of my mind.
I mean, yeah, we've got We have armed guards at the office now. That's not funny at all.
And someone sarcastically replied calling the cat account racist. And the cat account responded, to be fair, Israelis do be constantly lying. So he's just being racist right here out in the open, but it's fine to these people because it's against Israelis. They reply again, they could start by not constantly getting caught lying about it. So I said, show me proof of them lying right now. No response because these people don't care about the truth. If you criticize them, they'll label you their enemy and dehumanize you, a person who barely deserves a spot in society.
I think like this will never happen, but in a totally just world, any kind of, regardless of your background, any kind of fucking Zionist tendency should be treated in the same way as being a fucking rabid neo-Nazi. And you shouldn't even let someone be the fucking local dog catcher as Felix was posting.
The dog walker comment, the local dog catcher or whatever it was, that was exceptional from you. And that is progress. You might not see it, but it is.
What's crazy is the creators that Hassan and company hate largely agree with them on the main issue. What people have a problem with is their dishonesty and lying.
We have a lot of grievances not pertaining to the actual issue at hand. But
I don't know. The issue, my friend, the issue at hand is your behavior.
Committing a genocide.
I can care about two things, Hassan. It's very important to acknowledge that.
Don't you think?
I can care about two things, my friend.
Incredibly narrow framework
very
surrounding
easy.
Your own.
This stuff gets a little toxic. I need a breath of fresh air. With Fume has no vapor, no nicotine, no battery. It's just flavored air, and it's part of a whole new movement towards better habits. Or as I like to call it, my favorite toy to fidget with. I've been using Fume for over 6 months. It's really fun. My girlfriend's always trying to steal it from me. It comes in a whole variety of flavors. Crisp mint is by far my favorite, but I've been on a bit of an orange vanilla kick lately. I often used to find myself going to the kitchen for another snack when I was bored, or grabbing a 4th cup of coffee, even though I definitely don't need it. Whereas now I just play around with the Fume a bit, get that little stimulant of flavor when needed, and I'm right back to work. Fume has served over 500,000 customers, and you could be their next success story. So give the gift of better habits by going to tryfume.com/WillyMac or scan the QR code and get a free topper when you sign up for the Journey Pack today. Thank you, Fume, for sponsoring this video. I have long documented Hassan's history of lying and him trying to lie more to get out of it. But the fact is, Hassan's been busy lately, and I don't want him to get away scot-free with all of these new lies. So let's break down his tactics. First one is catching Hassan mid-lie, and then when he knows he can't escape, double down, because he can't ever admit fault.
Do you think it's appropriate to accuse any Jewish person you disagree with of working with the ADL?
Right here, Hassan's caught off guard because he knows he said something stupid.
No.
Ethan then plays a clip of Hassan doing just that.
When his knows I'm not anti-Semitic and making these inferences that I am, and like partnering with like the ADL and
partnering with the ADL. You want to unpack that one there, buddy?
Yeah. Again, partnering with the ADL. That is precisely what took place.
I have never spoken to the ADL, so what does that mean?
Now, there's no evidence that Ethan colluded with the ADL other than the ADL also hates Hassan. So Hassan's only option here is to double down.
I'm not saying you directed the ADL
Do you know
to take
how
action.
silly you
Well, actually,
look?
you know what? I am kind of saying that. I am implying that you directed the ADL to take action.
Well, that's a defamatory claim that has zero proof. And frankly, it sounds a little Jewish conspiratorial.
And finally, he tops off the lie by making a meaningless distinction, but acting like it was a well thought out comment.
I thought that you worked for the ADL.
I've not spoken to the ADL.
I would have said you worked for the ADL.
Hassan's thinking he's Jewish and criticizes me. Must be working with the ADL. He's not done either, and you have no evidence. He's just lying to slander Ethan's character, and when pressed to find an example, he says the dumbest thing.
It got nothing to do with the ADL. Blame Frogan for doing a racist fucking panel at TwitchCon that became a viral story, independent of me.
Panel, Ethan. Just like cracker is not an anti-white term.
Okay,
cracker is an anti-white term. So did Hassan think he was yelling about brown people all those times he was saying cracker? It makes those clips come off a little different.
Did I say, oh my God, saltine cracker? Like people are just bitter because it's saltine cracker. That's not what I said. You dumb cracker bitch.
This person has literally never been around black people. There's a person who does not have a single black or brown friend.
I want you to remember that Ethan and Hassan don't disagree on much. And when Ethan confronts Hassan with this reality, he essentially says, I just don't like that you criticize me.
Because I thought that you were a lot more open-minded until...
What have we disagreed on? What have we disagreed on? I'm sorry. What am I not open-minded about? What have we disagreed on, Hassan, other than me criticizing you and your friends? What have I said against the Palestinian people? Go ahead. What do we disagree on?
Disagreeing on is what you choose to focus on.
Does that seem
and
significant?
What you think is the major point of contention here.
The main point of contention is you slandering him as a genocide defender.
Does that justify like lying about me continually for a year and a half just because you don't like where I'm focused? That seems immaterial.
Lying about what?
About me being a Destiny fan, about hallucinating, sweeping for your anti-Semitic friends, lying about context, saying that my video's out of context without watching it. Hassan, take your time.
He's silent because he knows Ethan's right. They then get into a debate about the rapes on October 7th. Hassan doesn't engage and just starts talking about other rapes as if it somehow makes it even, like he doesn't need to talk about it anymore. It's very weird.
You seemingly act like you care about sexual violence taking place against Israelis. Meanwhile, one of the hostages that actually was returned in the early stages did get raped by an Israeli fitness instructor.
You know,
I have not seen you talk about that. I have not seen you talk about
the Israeli pro-rape crime that an Israeli did unrelated to the conflict.
Israel
Do you find it
had a
interesting?
January
There's something that I
style. Israel had a January 6th style pro riot where a bunch of rabid right-wing.
Do you think I'm defending this? Why I'm not defending this.
He's just rambling off things that aren't related in any way, and then he yells at Ethan for being on topic.
Listen to me. Listen to my words.
They touch my private parts. They rape.
You're not going through this in a dignified way, and I think it's very gross. What you're doing here is simply weaponizing a victim
you are so pathetic.
as a fucking prop.
Bro, you literally just did that to Ethan. The third tactic is the gaslighting technique. We all know Ethan's been targeted with CPS calls, death threats. AB is being called an Uncle Tom, a house slave by Bad Empanada, purely because he's Lebanese and works for Ethan. But since Ethan can't figure out the exact person who called CPS, Hassan's gonna act like no one's responsible.
I have never once in my entire life, Hassan, experienced the amount of harassment, the organized, psychotic campaign to try to ruin my life, all of my employees' life, my family's life, their family's life. This is your community acting in response to what you're saying about me being pro-Zionist. So do I think it's worse? In my experience, it's much worse.
My community that's done any of these things that you're talking about. Who calls CPS?
What the fuck? So I don't know.
So you don't know who calls CPS, and yet for the past couple of months, you've been like, it's whoever I don't like that is called CPS.
No.
And now you're claiming that my community is responsible for it.
Bad Empanada calls for people to do it. Denims community calls for it to happen. Ian made a video to 7 million people saying it's justified. And Hassan promotes all of them. Hassan's getting notes during the debate from a guy called Chris CPS. Anyone with eyeballs knows it's coming from this anti-Ethan community. This gaslighting is brutal, but Hassan is just warming up. Hassan tries to criticize Hila for doing mandatory military service.
Hila was doing mandatory military service. What should she have done?
There's numerous options. One, religious exemption. Two, refusing to serve.
But Ethan asked the obvious question. Our US tax dollars help fund this genocide, so why doesn't Hassan stop paying taxes?
You say that Hila could have gone to jail and done a conscientious objection instead of joining the army. Why do you pay taxes? Why do you pay taxes to the United States government?
This is your big argument, Ethan?
Answer the question.
That I pay taxes and I'm morally culpable? I know. That's why I try to
why don't
fight
you go
against
to jail?
This goddamn government doing
why
this
don't you
shit
stand
every
up for
day.
your why don't you stand up for your principles and go to jail for it?
Because it would not actually stop. Okay, it would not actually stop.
If Hila objected to being a secretary, it wouldn't stop either. She'd just be in jail. It's just like Noah Samsen wants everyone else to make sacrifices, but they don't want to risk their own cushy lives. I'm using a lot of clips from their debate because Ethan being there to push back makes it easier to point out. But Hassan does this all the time on his own stream. There, Hassan will just make ridiculous claims like the leader of Hezbollah being less anti-Semitic than Ethan Klein.
Ironically enough, Hassan Nasrallah less anti-Semitic than Ethan Klein. I cannot stress this enough. Hassan Nasrallah is less anti-Semitic than Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein constantly makes a conflation between Zionism and Judaism. Hassan Nasrallah, on the other hand, does not. The clip that I was watching about Hassan Nasrallah, who is homophobic and definitely has some questionable perspectives.
Please ignore Ian. He's just here to watch.
In America, you have the major corporations. You have the trinity of oil companies, the weapons industry, and the so-called Christian Zionism. The decision-making is in the hands of this alliance. Israel used to be a tool at the hands of the British, and now is a tool in the hands of America. Wow. Interesting. Once again, Hassan Nasrallah 1, Ethan 0 on the failing the anti-Semitism, don't do anti-Semitism challenge. Ethan Klein failing the don't do anti-Semitism challenge. Hassan Nasrallah winning the don't do anti-Semitism challenge.
But did I miss the part where Ethan thought Jews secretly controlled the United States? Nothing he showed proved his point, yet look at his chat. They think he's a genius. Hassan talks about himself going on vacation like he's Vladimir Lenin fleeing the country.
By the way, I do want to point out something here. This is January 31st, 2025 was when this video was released. There was something brewing in the United States of America at that point. Do you want to know why I say this? I point out the date. We were already deep into the Donald Trump Burger Reich administration. At this point, I was in Japan, escaping the fascist administration rising to power.
Yeah, the only way he could survive was to go undercover as an anime waifu.
But at this point, it had been 11 days since Elon Musk had dropped the Sig Heil twice.
Oh no, guys, Elon Musk also did something bad 11 days earlier. How dare Ethan talk about Hassan?
We're 11 days into Donald Trump. The reason why I mentioned this is because Ethan has a lot of issues with figuring out his priorities. If you're freaking out about anti-Semitism on the rise, I would assume that you probably wouldn't make an entire video and use your previously unused platform to attack your former podcast co-host.
Ethan's criticized Trump, he's criticized Elon. So not only is Hassan just wrong, but it doesn't matter. Neither of those things absolve you of criticism. Hold up, guys. Trump passed tariffs. Can't talk about Hassan now. And finally, the most convoluted and annoying tactic Hassan does is the filibuster. It's like a really long, rambly story Hassan tells where he implements a bunch of previous tactics into one. During the content nuke, Ethan criticizes Hassan for downplaying China's treatment of Uyghur Muslims. Rather than dealing with Ethan's actual criticism, Hassan fixates on Ethan saying death camps on a podcast 2 years ago.
None of this even proves your point, which was that you watched a documentary that I suspected was like a Shenyun or Falun Gong documentary that said that there were death camps in China. None of this, none of what he has shown so far has said that there are death camps in China.
That was not the point Ethan was making. In fact, the podcast Hassan is referring to, Ethan immediately concedes that there may have not been death camps.
Don't they have Uyghur death camps? Is that...
It's not a death camp. They were re-education camps, and they are no longer in operation.
Is that
according
true?
to the Associated Press?
Okay.
So Hassan has clip-shipped a point from a podcast 2 years ago and is applying it to Ethan's video, even though that's not the point Ethan's trying to make.
Part of the reason why I don't think that he was able to prove his perspective in the conversation at all is because they weren't fucking death camps, and I was right. They were re-education camps.
By the way, that really just means prisons if you think about it, but we'll let them cook.
I've always been against that. This is the problem. And people will say, Hassan, we got you. You said you would be in favor of re-education. There's a difference between re-educating people who have done crimes in the process of rehabilitation, okay, versus doing dragnets against an entire minority population and mass surveillance against an entire minority population. That is what I'm against.
This is the filibuster. He's not going to engage with Ethan's point, which is Hassan has a double standard for Russia and China because his brand is America bad all the time.
Hassan has happily eaten up the Chinese propaganda on this and has regurgitated it to his mainstream audience. Why is he defending China's genocide of their Muslim population? How does this even make sense? I know America bad is a meme that people laugh at online, but with Hassan, this does actually seem to be the beginning and the end of his analysis.
2 principles. Let me explain to you 2 principles that you should keep with you, coming from a person who's Turkish, okay? Never align with the Western forces.
After 20 minutes of Hassan going on unrelated tangents, he pulls up a stream he did on October 13, 2021, where he read an AP article that was critical of China, and he partially agreed with it.
This is the breakdown, okay? This is where me and a lot of defenders of China part ways. I think that that is completely and wholeheartedly unacceptable. People that unconditionally defend China think it's totally appropriate because they're all fucking extremist Muslims, okay? To me, that sounds a lot like, you know, you're a reactionary conservative, but for China.
He's being so careful when criticizing China. Where's all the screaming?
So when I look at other countries I look at the regional actor, whoever the regional power player is, and then I look at who is backed by the Western superpowers. That's a principle that you could take home with you. If you want to actually be moral, or if you want to be smart about the way you analyze other countries.
And then 1 month later in 2021, Hassan would get mad at the news for criticizing China over the same thing. And he would cite the same AP article for why China is cool.
I wanted to stand up for my Muslim brothers and sisters who are in, concentration camps, are getting tortured and raped every day. And I don't care whoever said which organization or which company.
Bro, the Associated Press literally said, like, not like a fucking, not exactly known as like a pro-China outlet, but even the Associated Press quietly fucking wrote an article that didn't get a lot of coverage in mainstream media about how, like, okay, well, all the concentration camps have been closed now. Like, all the re-education camps are closed now in fucking Xinjiang, and it's like very different.
But the article Hassan read said they're slowing down camps because they possibly achieved their goals of subduing the Uyghurs and other Muslims in the area.
Very different vibes in Xinjiang, and now, it's the tourism hour.
So now that we're through that, let's break down how extensive this lie is. Hassan doesn't engage with the point Ethan's making about his positions always being anti-West, even when it doesn't make sense. Instead, he focuses on an irrelevant podcast clip that said death camps. Then he brags about reading an anti-China article he read 4 years ago where he basically has kid gloves on while criticizing China for having concentration camps. And then he ignores how only a month later he was bragging about how great China was for culling the population and closing the camps. No viewer is going to take the time and fact check all of this. So Hassan knows he can just call Ethan's video poorly researched and clip chimped.
I'll just start out by saying we're 8 minutes in and his research is not so great. He doesn't prove his point at all.
China forced minorities on birth control, forced abortions through mandatory pregnancy tests, and detention camps for having too many children. China's what happens when you successfully complete the genocide, but hey guys, at least they have high-speed rail.
It was literally an Associated Press article that I read talking about a high-speed rail line going all the way to Xinjiang, basically creating this massive network of high-speed rail that was seen as a negative, that was portrayed as a negative thing. People in Xinjiang still have freedom to travel in that regard.
No, they don't. The article he read literally said they don't. This whole segment is Hassan proving Ethan right. Doesn't matter to Hassan, just declare victory.
So one must ask the question, why Ethan Klein refuses to actually engage in any of the things that I'm saying, uses out-of-context clips, and also simultaneously has a very different standard for what China's doing as opposed to what Israel is doing.
You're literally the one doing all of that, using out-of-context clips, not engaging with him, rewriting history. These are all tactics he's done for years, and not just with big things, small things too. He talks about the BDS boycott list. A fan comes up to him saying he needs to stop buying Coke on March 31st, 2024.
I'm sorry, I forgot to say, you need to stop drinking Coke Zero on stream.
Why?
It's boycott.
Wait, is it?
You're preaching pro-Palestine and you're drinking all this boycott stuff. Please, Hassan, at least pretend. Do it off stream. Please.
Okay, I'll put it in a glass.
Then on November 21st, 2024, he finally takes a huge stand against Coca-Cola.
As of today, the Palestinian BDS National Committee, the largest Palestinian coalition leading the global BDS movement, endorses the organic boycott campaign against Coca-Cola to pressure the company and to end its complicity in Israel's illegal occupation, apartheid, and genocide. I will no longer showcase Coca-Cola products on my stream. That means no more Diet Coke.
He then does a New York Times interview that took place on April 27, 2025. And what does Hassan got in his fridge? Diet Coke. This guy is telling his audience how great Disney Plus's show Andor is, even though it's supposed to be boycotted.
I finished Andor last night. It was amazing. It was incredible. What a payoff. What a f***ing payoff, dude. I highly recommend it. Obviously, Disney's BDS, so, you got to do what you got to do.
Not to mention, this guy also streams on Twitch, an Amazon-owned subsidiary that is also on the BDS list. But to Hassan, it doesn't count because it's a subsidiary.
Amazon is on that list, but Amazon is not on that list for Twitch, and it's not on that list for a permanent fucking blockade of Amazon and all Amazon-related products, because Palestinian National Committee understands that half of the websites that we are on and that we use AWS as its backend.
He's saying this while thanking his viewers for Twitch Primes every other stream, only available with Amazon Prime, by the way.
Your contributions in the form of a subscription, that is $6 a month, or a free one in the form of a Twitch Prime, is all that it takes. For free with a Twitch Prime, you can continue supporting the show. Or for free with a Twitch Prime. Or for free with a Twitch Prime.
How can anyone respect this guy? He's telling people to risk jail time by dodging service, but he won't risk moving to another streaming platform. He doesn't tell people to stop using Twitch Prime. He doesn't turn off monetization on YouTube, but he won't even give up the pop he's drinking. These people suck. Even the one thing Hassan admits he's wrong on, he still does on a daily basis.
The first ever React Gate, when people were getting mad at me because like I would have the chair on and while the videos were playing, totally fucking fair and valid. And for the past multiple years, that's not happened on my broadcast. Like there are instances where I get up to pee, but it's usually during a video that's playing that's like from a friend or from news and commentary, and it's only for like 30 seconds to a minute.
You reacted to his video and you just sort of left. And it wasn't a political video. It was like a fun little video. And I think his point was valid. In that,
yeah, and I apologize. By the way, that's another thing. I literally apologized to that person instantly, and then they basically like quintupled down and like did this like 8-hour broadcast with a bunch of like random fucking slop tuber commentary people, and I was like, what the fuck? I think this guy's just like trying to farm drama out of this.
He's intentionally lying. He initially responded to Jay by saying he had no other choice but to leave and eat while the video was still playing.
You could leave a sign saying "gone for a dump, back in 5," or could just give credit where it's due and actually react while he's in the room. Doesn't seem like a lot to ask. These motherfuckers are like, dude, peanut bottle, dude. On him, how is it any different than him just watching a YouTube video off stream? It just rubs me the wrong way. Like, how do you think of your viewers to just stream your break? Dude, what am I supposed to do? Die? Like, I don't understand.
When Jay pointed out how immature Hassan is, he called Jay a Nazi.
This is what I said 1 fucking year ago. Since then, he made a video, or they made a video. Afterwards, they had like a bunch of Nazis in the kill stream get together and do an 8-hour reaction to my entire stream.
Hassan has backtracked to call Jay a farmer over this, but Jay wasn't even on that stream. Jay is on Twitter laughing at how wrong Hassan's rewriting of history has been. But the funniest part is Hassan is still doing all of this. The day I wrote this segment, Hassan was on stream reacting to a video. He's halfway through and he didn't even know if it was AI or not.
Is this AI? Did Fireship make this video with fucking AI? We only watched a couple slop videos, and now immediately my brain is wired in a way where I'm thinking this could perhaps be AI.
He then drinks his Dr. Pepper and unpauses the video to go grab his Uber Eats, shouting chair stream because he knows what he's doing is wrong.
Check this.
But what might be more exciting is the release of Gemma 3N. Gemma models are open, so as a developer you can...
He comes back adding the incredible commentary of terrifying.
Even
though he has no clue what's going on. And before I can even finish the sentence, he leaves again.
And I think it could be...
By the time he finishes grabbing his Mountain Dew, the video is over.
Link below. This has been the Code Report. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
He added nothing to the video. But when asked if he was still doing this on stream, he's going to lie and say he stopped.
A bunch of stuff that I did initially that I changed. I don't do anymore. Like I don't cook food while on stream. Like I order. Like there's a bunch of stuff that I used to do that I don't do anymore. That in an effort to like, you know, reduce the chair time. The thing that I was frustrated by is that people were just like saying that all I do is just like put the chair on and fuck off. And that was annoying to me because it's like before the ReactGate shit, I was known for being a person who paused all the time and like added way too much information to the fucking video that like people lost the plot of the video.
Brother, your viewers complaining that your attempts to make a video fair use are boring does not make it okay to walk away from a video while it's still playing.
Unironically think like there's just a chair for an hour for like a 15-minute YouTube video.
There shouldn't ever just be a chair at all. That's what everyone is saying is so offensively against fair use.
I've taken the notes from all of the people that shit on me for years over that, which is part of the reason why you don't really hear too much about people saying that I'm like reacting unfairly or whatever. I rarely ever react to like an unknown channel anyway nowadays, and it's mostly just like news and commentary that I'm adding additional commentary over.
People don't respond to you doing it anymore because you've clearly shown you don't care and that you're not going to stop. Him saying it's fine because he mostly does it to the news. It's not true, but it also doesn't matter. Fair use doesn't stop at you watching the news. Ethan just released a video showing how blatantly these people steal content rather than transforming it.
And here's Kaceytron's. She smoked more than she spoke. Kaceytron smokes 42 times during her reaction. And just as a silly thought experiment, we thought, wouldn't it be funny if she spent more time smoking than she did talking? Well, we tallied them up, and lo and behold, there's 15 minutes 40 seconds of commentary versus 18 minutes and 55 seconds of smoking. She spent 3 minutes and 15 seconds longer smoking than she did talking in her quote-unquote reaction. And whatever talking she did was just to express how confused she was, presumably from smoking 42 times.
What is happening? I'm trying to follow. I've lost the plot.
So he lies about small things, lies about big things, rewrites history, argues positions that his critics don't have, calls for others to make sacrifices while he can't give up a single luxury in his life, and he aligns himself with doxers and harassers as long as they're on his side. Mislabel everyone, dodge every critique, in the name of them being right-wingers or Nazis or genocide supporters, even though none of it might be true.
Ethan's a right-wing, obviously. These people either directly support or tacitly support child murder, mass child murder. That's ultimately what it is. This is the main point of contention. Be mean to them. If they feel bad, if they feel harassed, honestly, great. I don't give a fuck. Fuck them. Fuck each and every one of them. We need to be mean to these guys. We need to be assholes. They deserve it.
He literally has an old stream clip explaining his current day tactics.
You deny, you deflect, and then you counterattack the person who like launched this investigation on you, and you try to claim that like there's a hidden bias there. And most lizard brain dipshits who like love you unconditionally will go, oh, finally I have an out to defend this person.
These people aren't good faith actors. They aren't civil rights leaders. They're social narcissists that prey on their viewers' fears to make a bag. They're like the meme where the peasants are rioting to get more pay, and Hassan's the king looking at all of his treasure going, I'll help spread the message. I'm out of town right now, as you guys could probably tell, but I felt like it was important to make this video to document all of the craziness going on right now. People should know what these guys have been up to. Shout out to everyone who's been reacting to my content. I've enjoyed seeing it, and it's actually been in fair use. You're all legends. I have one more video covering the more unhinged side of this topic. Yes, it gets worse, so subscribe to the channel. Shout out to the homies over on Patreon: Crimson Glass, Riveter, Christina Vina, Mac Monkey, Drain Kobex, Necro Valley, The Confusing Opinion, Eddie Bizzle, Tiz McFitz, Christopher H, Sennial Music, Lucas If, ET Automatic, Snoopy Poop Tube 2, Amur MLB, Rooney Boo, Drew is Sharon, Clown Factory, Monkey D Luffy, Shura, Mustard Shirt Guy, Tiffany Sullivan, and the mega homies: Hellison, IGP, Your Taxi, Cyber Katie, Lore Reloaded, Papa Gut, Caden Lulin, BA Subway, Hawk and Load, Kitty Cat, Terox, Faye Under, John Manfreda, Trick, Lucas, and Katie Hawk.